Hi, I'm Samantha Power. I'm a professor at Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government and the author of A Problem from Hell, America and the Age of Genocide. Am I supposed to say something else? Okay. Well, beginning about 4 years ago, the Sudanese government cracked down on a rebellion by using the one tool that it frequently uses to crack down on political unrest, and that is the tool of genocide, systematically burning, pillaging, and raping non-Arab villages. The violence is Muslim on Muslim violence, but it's people of Arab descent targeting those who are non-Arabs. And so far the death toll is about 400,000. What's deeply disturbing at present is that for all of the political protests in the U.S., there's almost no interest, it seems, elsewhere in the developed world. And humanitarian aid groups are now being expelled almost on a daily basis. African Union peacekeepers are being targeted for the first time and murdered. And that death toll of 400,000 without aid workers and protection forces looks poised to mount in a big way, in a hurry, in the next few months. I've made a commitment to Darfur because I didn't have any choice. I had written a book on American responses to the major genocides of the 20th century that very surprisingly gave me a platform to talk about these events, to talk about American foreign policy and what it left out. And so when the killing in Darfur began, I had put a sort of, no, I can't say a tidy bow, but a bow around the 20th century, and it became really impossible not to think of Darfur, which was the first genocide of the 21st century, as the place where all of the lessons that I learned, over a decade's worth of work on past cases of mass atrocity, where one could put them to use. And the singular lesson is that the U.S. government, no Western government, no democracy, is ever going to tend to these kinds of issues naturally. The costs of getting involved, even just diplomatically, always exceeds the non-cost of staying uninvolved. And the only way in the 20th century that ever changed is when there was so much domestic political noise and political pressure that an American president actually felt like he would pay a price for doing nothing about genocide. And so acting on that lesson, it's really been a privilege and a great surprise that there have been so many domestic constituencies who've been interested in getting active and putting that pressure and turning the heat up. And almost nothing has come out of the Bush administration that wasn't the product of spasms in bottom-up pressure. This has not been top-down leadership. This has been bottom-up pressure that has yielded, on occasion, genuine dividends, but unfortunately the pressure needs to be more sustained. I think evenings like this are historic. One of the things Darfur has mustered is the first ever anti-genocide constituency in the United States of America. For all of the outrage over the Holocaust, it was, of course, retrospective outrage. For all of the shame many of us feel about Rwanda, it was retrospective shame. What makes the movement that has grown up in response to Darfur so historic is that it is happening in real time. It's slow relative to what's needed, but it's much, much faster than anything we have seen, kicking into gear. And what tonight's event does is it ensures that that movement not only produces political pressure, but also tangible resources that will be used. I mean, every dollar raised is a dollar that will keep somebody alive for just a little bit longer in one of these displaced person camps. And I don't think, for all of the activism that we've seen over the last 4 years, I think this is the first time we've ever seen a fundraiser of this scale. I may be wrong on that, but I think this is the first time that the anti-genocide constituency has actually, collected such a large, batch of resources and signaled its commitment to Darfur, not simply by calling our congresspeople and writing letters and so forth, but actually writing checks. And that's what makes this very, very special. And checks matter when people are dying of starvation in a big way. Well, let me just say this, because I'll play to my strength, which is a scholar of this stuff. In 1994, 2.5 weeks into the Rwandan genocide, a congressperson, Patricia Schroeder from Colorado, was asked why the Congress wasn't doing more about Rwanda, where 800,000 people, of course, would be murdered in a 100-day period. And she said, I don't really know. She said, we're getting all kinds of telephone calls from the district about the endangered gorilla species, but nobody's actually calling about the people. And to me, this was a singular testament to what was wrong in the 1990s, in the 20th century, there was a lot of domestic outrage and unease about what was going on in Rwanda, but nobody really thought to pick up the phone. Nobody thought to write a check. Nobody thought to host a benefit. And I think, I'm not sure the governments have learned the lesson of Rwanda, the lesson of the Holocaust, but I do believe that American citizens and people living in this country are the ones actually applying the real lessons, trying to show that there's not just an endangered species movement and endangered species non-governmental organizations, but there's actually an endangered peoples movement that is kicking into action at a time where it's deeply urgent, deeply necessary.